In this lesson, I'm going to be talking about the present perfect tense. And the present perfect tense is a really unique tense because it has elements of the present and the past in the same tense. The present perfect tense lets a reader or listener know that a past action is affecting the present situation. And the experience could be from a long time ago or very recently. So I have lived in several different countries in my lifetime. That happened several years ago. But I have eaten breakfast already. That happened just this morning. But regardless of when that past action happened, the present perfect tense is going to let the other person know that a past experience is somehow important now. So for example, if I say, this is the first time I have tried the croissants from that bakery, I'm using the present perfect tense there because I want to emphasize the fact that this past action that happened just a few minutes ago is not just any action. This is not just any trying. It's a special trying, a special eating, because it's the first time, and the first time is special. So that is a very common use of the present perfect when we want to draw attention to the fact that this past action is not just any old past action. It's important and special because it's the first time. So when we make the present perfect tense, we use the helping verb have or has, depending on your subject. And notice how that's in the present tense. And then we combine it with the main verb in the form of a past participle. And unfortunately, a past participle is not the same as a past tense. It has a different form, but it does refer to a past action. So there you have that combination of present and past together. And so the helping verb is showing that you have that experience. And so if you think about it, when you have something, it means you're the owner of something. And when you have something, it changes your present, right? If you have a car, if you own a car, it changes your ability to do things, right? You have better mobility. And so what the tense is saying here is that because you have this past experience, it is changing your current reality. It's changing your present. So here you can see how the verb looks in its conjugated form. I have eaten. We have our helping verb have, and then we have our main verb in the past participle form. And this tense is often contracted. So that means we take the subject and the helping verb and we contract them and make them smaller into one contracted word. I've eaten. And the same thing with you have eaten. We can contract it and make it into you've eaten. He has eaten. Notice how we have that S there because we have to agree with the subject. That becomes he's eaten. And she's eaten, and it's eaten. We've eaten, you've eaten, and they've eaten. So past participles, if you've got just a regular verb, it's going to be the same as the past tense. So work, worked, worked. The past tense and the past participle are the same. But unfortunately, a lot of irregular verbs have different past participles, so we just have to memorize these. So for example, with be, The past tense is was or were, and the past participle is been. So if I were going to use that for the present perfect, I might say something like, I've been really busy lately, and that's why I haven't called you. And then you can see with become, the past tense is became, but then for the past participle, it goes back to become. For begin, we have three forms: begin, began, begun. For break, we also have three forms: break, broke, broken. And a lot of past participles end in n. For bring, the past tense and the past participle are the same, and same for build. So you can see there's a lot of variation there. So unfortunately, requires quite a bit of memorization to get those right. When you're using the present perfect tense, there are three different ways that the past might be important to the present. First of all, that past action might be ongoing, and that might be why it's important to the present. Second of all, it might be a really formative experience, that past action, and that's why it's important to the present. It has really shaped who you are in the present. And finally, the third reason a past action might be important to the present is because it's caused a result in the present. So those are three different categories of use of the present perfect. So let's look at each of these one by one. For the ongoing present perfect, the past action is important now because it will probably continue into the future. So here you can see this woman has lived in this house for 60 years. So that action started in the past, 60 years ago, and then it has continued all the way up to the present. And because we're using the present perfect, we know that it will probably continue into the future. So that's what lets us know that this action that started in the past is an important one because it's probably going to continue into the future. It's such a habit, such a continual action, such a part of her life that it will probably continue. And with this type of present perfect, it's important to say when the action in the past started, and that's unique to the ongoing present perfect. So you can do that by saying for and then say the time period, and that lets you know for how many years or months or whatever. Or you can do that by using the preposition since, which lets you know the starting point of the continuous action. For the experience present perfect, the past action is important now because it helped to create a person's identity. So for this man, he has held a lion cub in his arms. So we're using the present perfect here to show that this was a formative experience. It's a really important experience that has shaped the way he thinks about himself as a person. It's part of his identity. And so he's from South Africa, and holding this lion cub was a really important part of how he sees himself and the person he is. With the result present perfect, the past action is important now because it caused a change that affects a shared situation. So if I say, I have eaten the plums, you might ask, why don't you just say, I ate the plums? Well, let's look at a context where we can understand better why I might use the present perfect. Here's a poem by William Carlos Williams, and he says, I have eaten the plums that were in the ice box, and which you were probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me, they were delicious, so sweet and so cold. So he's using the present perfect here because it's like a warning to the person that he lives with that when they open the refrigerator, there are not going to be any plums there. So he is giving his friend or partner the heads up that this past action of eating the plums is going to affect their shared experience of the present. So it is kind of like a warning. So this result present perfect is the most common use of the present perfect. So let's just see if we can get a little bit of practice with it. I want you to try and finish the sentences with a clause that makes sense for the context. So if I said, I have forgotten my bathing suit, the past action was, I forgot my bathing suit. So why am I using the present perfect? What would be the result in the present that's going to change our experience of the present? Well, maybe you might say something like, I can't go swimming. So because of this past action, the change to the present is, we can't go ahead with our plan to go swimming. I can't go swimming now. How about if I say, I have eaten already? What might be the change or result in the present? So, I am not very hungry. How about, I have finished my homework? So, how might that change the present? I can watch TV now. How about, I have missed the bus? What might be the result of that past action in the present? Well, I will be late. How about if I have caught a cold? What might be the result of that past action? Well, maybe I will eat some soup and go to bed early instead of going to a party. How about I have finished this book? How might that cause a result in the present? Maybe now you can borrow it. How about if I've made a decision? What might the result be? So don't ask me to reconsider. I have broken my arm, so I can't play tennis for the next month. So in all these situations, I'm using the present perfect because I want to let you, the listener, know that there is going to be some kind of change to the present as a result of this past action. So in summary, the present perfect tense lets the listener or reader know that a past action is important in the present. So for example, if I say he has broken his leg, the importance to the present is that he can't come to soccer practice. We form the present perfect with the helping verb has or have and a past participle. And many irregular verbs have unique past participles that we must memorize. So the has or have part, that's the present part that shows that we have that experience and it is changing our present reality. And then the past participle refers to that past action that we are now the owners of. He has eaten breakfast already is an example of a past participle and our helping verb has in combination to make the present perfect. And there are three ways the past might be important to the present. It might have ongoing importance, it might be an important experience that has shaped who you are, and it might be important because it's caused a result in the present. So here's an example of the ongoing present perfect. He has smoked cigarettes since he was a teenager. So this is a past action that started when he was a teenager, and we're implying that it will probably continue into the future, and that's why it's important. She has worked in 5 bookstores. That's an example of the experience present perfect. And we're using the present perfect there because we're saying this past experience of working in 5 different bookstores has shaped how she thinks of herself as an employee, maybe she's a very experienced bookstore worker, or maybe she's feels that she's very educated because she's worked amongst books for many years. So the idea there is that it has formed her identity as a person. And then the last example there, I have missed the bus, so I will be late for school. This is an example of the result present perfect, and we can see that that past action of missing the bus has changed the present, because now instead of being on time for school, this person is going to be late for school. Okay, so the present perfect is not an easy tense to use because it's a judgment call. You have to decide, was that past action important to the present? However, native English speakers use this tense quite often, so I recommend that you at least try to familiarize yourself with it a little bit, and I wish you luck with all those tricky past participles.